My name is Amy Peterson. I live in Bluegrass, Iowa, and my husband and I run a 350, 120 cow dairy operation. Well, when I was quite young, so when I was like 5 and 6, my parents were already doing conservation tillage, which at that point in time in the early 60s, nobody was doing that. And so I was aware of that then already. And because my dad had been in World War II and all the chemical usage in World War II and everything, they were very hesitant to do very much of that. I say that we are not organic, and I do stress that because this is not about the bad guys, the us and them. That is not what this is about. It's about minimizing the impact of the tools that we have available, the technology that we have available. We cannot feed the world without it. We cannot feed ourselves without it. But in the process of doing those things, we want to be as kind to the resources that are giving us life as we can.
My name is Dana Schweitzer, and I work here on campus at Iowa State University. I am currently the program coordinator for the Iowa Monarch Conservation Consortium, so I'm working in the Department of Entomology, helping with monarch and milkweed research. I nominated my mom, Amy, for the Women Impacting the Land Award this year because when I saw the award information, I was really excited to see that conservation was being highlighted. And that is something that has always been important to both of my parents, and especially my mom. In all of the years that she's been involved in the business, having lost her own father at the age of 10, she's taken it upon herself to learn about many of the day-to-day operations. She's helping make hay, driving the tractor, so she's involved in some of the day-to-day activities, as well as the larger decisions about how they're utilizing their resources, being able to partner with NRCS for cover crops, water quality projects. That's always been very important to her because conservation was very important to both of her parents. So I thought it was a really excellent fit in terms of the priorities on the farm and the way that she's made those decisions as a landowner all of these years. I think for both of my parents, my mom especially, not only has it been important to be consistent in their efforts regarding conservation as landowners, but also to be actively engaged in the community. My mom and my dad both as longtime 4-H volunteers. That's something that's very important to them, and I know something that they really enjoy, as well as being active in the farm.
So this is now a heritage farm. So it has been in the family for 150 years. It has been passed from mother to daughter for the last 4 generations, which couldn't happen in every state because Iowa very early on allowed women to own property, and not every place did that. And so when they had some financial difficulties, my great-great-grandmother stepped up to the plate, went in, solved the problem with the finances, and then sold it to her daughter, who then sold it to my mother, who then passed it on to me. I did inherit about 1/3 of it, but the rest of it I bought from my siblings. So it's never just been an inheritance, but it has gone from mother to daughter for 4 generations. At this point in my life, on my farm, I now feel like the generations that came in front of me, because they reached an age where they were not as actively involved, but they knew so much that they were still the eyes and the heart. And they kept track to make sure that people were safe and that things got done. And they knew when to say, there's a problem, you need an extra pair of hands. And I am in the midst of transitioning to that. Some days that makes me feel very old. Some days that makes me feel not wise, but learned. And it's an interesting place to be in life. I could never have done this without my partner. It really was a gift of love on both of our parts to make this place, this little space, the best that it could be. And it is all about not the talents of one of us, but the talents of both of us that allowed that to happen. And I would wish that gift for more couples. That's not to say it's always easy, but the richness that comes from that is just irreplaceable. So, hats off to my partner.
I'm Nancy Bull-Borman in Kasuth County. I live here on a farm with my husband Matt and my two boys Reese and Quinn, and another baby on the way. We raise corn and soybeans, and I also work for Mashoff Environmental, working in nutrient management issues with pork producers and environmental compliance and technical support in those areas. I guess another thing I'm involved with over the last few years, I've been elected Kasuth County Soil and Water District Commissioner, and that way I've also, there's 5 of them in each county in Iowa, and you get a little bit more involved with your local Soil and Water Conservation District and NRCS office, and you kind of get to be involved in more things going on and keep up to speed with different programs. I've also been elected second alternate for the district, so that's been interesting too, to be involved kind of more at the state level too, and just to know what's going on and try to publicize more events and more programs so people are aware of what's out there and things that are going on.
I'm Angie Reek-Hintz. I'm an extension field agronomist for Iowa State University. Nancy really came to the top of my mind when this opportunity came out to nominate, and really her involvement in many things. Obviously, I've known her through her work with Mashoffs and manure nutrient management. And when we're talking about women impacting the land in Iowa, where we are #1 in livestock production, and especially in hogs where Nancy works, her working with producers one-on-one from an environmental standpoint is crucial. The regulations are not easy to understand. Nutrient management planning isn't always black and white. And Nancy has that professional and educational background to work one-on-one with those producers. So I've always admired her taking on that task, working with our livestock producers. My relationship with Nancy isn't so much about her farming operation or Matt's, but I have seen them in action at some field days and some other things. So I'm very impressed with what their farm goals are, and they're conservation-minded folks, right? Trying some new things in this day and age, strip till, cover crops. And while people may not always think they're new, if you've never tried them before, they're new to you. So it takes a while to come up to speed. One growing season to another is not similar, so there's always challenges every year, and they're sticking it out, and for the right reasons.
It has evolved over the years with me and Matt. Currently, we're mainly grain farmers of corn and soybeans here in Kasuth County. We do a few specialty items, growing seed soybeans for Pioneer, and this year we're also growing some seed corn for Pioneer also. I guess a few of the things we've been trying over the years, we've been migrating more and more to using strip tillage in our fields. So that's just one pass. Maybe you'll be able to see there later. It's just you're tilling up a thin strip for the seed bed for the planter to come through, and then leaving the rest of the residue in between the rows. We personally have done aerial seeding so far. We've done rye 2 years, and we did a oats and radish mix last year, strip tiled with the Iowa Soybean Association. So they've all been kind of, interesting and different. Last year was a winter kill, so you didn't have to worry about spraying it. This year we had rye, and you do have to worry about making sure it gets killed in a timely manner, dealing with the field condition, how wet it is, windy, temperature, all that thing. So, and we've done more and more. Did 100 acres of cover crops here this year, so that's the most we've done so far. And we've had some other experiences with our family members drilling it too this last year and having success with that. I guess some of the big changes we've had was, well, one, don't have as much livestock. We used to have hogs and cattle. Now that we're doing more strip till, we've been able to downsize we've sold our large field cultivator and just got a small one back for odds and ends. Reduced the size of our ripper. We got, traded out our large Steiger tractor so we've been able to change out some equipment actually, and that's been a slow but steady progress as you get more comfortable, and it takes some money to to buy some of this equipment is expensive, and trying out the strip till about deciding what you like and that you feel comfortable enough to switch out some of your other equipment. So we've been I guess evolving on our farm operation in that way, I'd say, especially with the equipment side of things. I guess advice that I'd give women in ag is just to keep being involved and keep having a voice, and don't be afraid to speak up, because other people aren't going to be afraid to speak up either, so you may as well give your opinion, and you is relevant and it matters, and you're probably knowledgeable about it, so you may as well have a voice at the table too.
I'm Jean Driscoll from Mechanicsville, Iowa. I farm with my two sons. We have a farrow to finish operation, 350 sows, 1,300 acres of corn soybean rotation, and I do the books and a lot of the running for the farm. First thing in the morning, I go out at about 5:30 and I pull the feed drops for the gestation sows. And from there, I go into the farrowing houses and take care of the sows. And when we're farrowing the new litters, we process them. We have 1,300 acres, and it's a corn soybean rotation. It's no-till, so the beans are no-tilled into corn stalks from last year. And the corn, with our manure plan, we have a 3-year rotation. It's corn, manure, corn, and beans. And so in between the years of corn, we do use the accelerator just to level things off. And so then it is planted into that. And the rest of the corn that was bean stubble is just planted directly into the bean stubble. We have waterways that we maintain that are part of our soil plan. We have CRP strips along our creek that we maintain, and we have, probably about 12 to 14 acres of CRP strips along creeks and things. We put in a windbreak back in '87. It's behind me now, so you can see that in those years, in the wintertime, it can be blowing and things, and I come out of the house here and I really don't know how bad it is till I go out around it. So it does do its job. I've tried to stay involved because I think it's important to know what's going on in your community. I'm on the Cedar County Conservation Board, which tends to the parks in Cedar County and our wildlife areas, and I'm now starting my 25th year on that. I've served 12 years on the Extension Council. Before I put my name on the ballot, I served on the Friends of Extension to get the referendum passed for Cedar County. It took us 2 tries, but we did get it accomplished, and so we felt very good about that. We had used services provided by the Extension for over the years, and I just kind of felt it was maybe my time to give back a little bit. On my farm, I am very active and involved in every aspect of it. I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for the oldest son having been with us when my husband died, and then the youngest son coming back. So it's truly a family operation, and I know we probably won't increase the sow operation or the hog operation because it's hard to get help, and help that will do things the way you'd like to have them done. And I'm getting older. So but no, we enjoy the country life.
I'm Kathy Elgineers, and I farm in Warren County and here in Clark County. In Warren County, it's my family's farm that my grandparents had bought in the 1940s. Right now, I've gotten down to 70 acres of row crop. That's a corn soybean rotation with cover crops in the fall. This farm is 405 acres, of which 160 of it is CRP on a 15-year contract. It's also a combination of hay ground and some pasture. I was an ag major at Iowa State, and the farm was always where I wanted to be. And I had worked South Central Nebraska for quite a few years, and then my husband and I had the opportunity to move back here, and that just let me get even more involved with the farm. I started out managing this area when we had lost a tenant who wanted to cut back. And we had some decisions to make, and we just thought putting it in the CRP was the natural way to go.
Yeah, I'm Mike White. I'm in the ISU Extension and Outreach field specialist. I'm the grape specialist. They call it viticulture specialist, and I work primarily through the Midwest Grape and Wine Institute. Well, I nominated Kathy. I've known Kathy for about 30 years when I used to be a sales manager for a large ag dealership in Warren County, Indianola. Did business with her. I'm also an assistant commissioner of the Soil and Water Conservation District, Warren County here. She's a full commissioner. So I've been working with her on that. I worked with her almost 12 years at the Extension when she was the county youth coordinator. Kathy, along with her husband and her son, they're all three of above average intelligence. They really know the issues, they know what they're doing, and she's fun to work with. So I just thought she'd be perfect for this. She's involved in so many agricultural activities and groups that it was kind of a shoe-in.
Last summer, I went crazy and went and bought a drone. Mostly, I wanted to be able to see what was going on in the fields. I get a lot of wet spots. The river gets out, and I wanted to be able to use it to fly over the fields and see what was going on. So I have flown over my farm in Warren County. We were able to see where the fungicide kind of bordered last year. We were able to see where the wet spots were, not just because the ducks being on it, but where I'm getting washed out, what I need to try to do to protect that area. And then we've flown this farm here in Clark County. Flying over the water, we were able to kind of get an idea of some of the water quality of where we had put Christmas trees in years for fish habitat, where maybe there's getting a little more silt fill in. We were also getting a good idea of what was going on in the CRP areas, all the different grasses and how things were coming up. There's an overall view of this whole farm that shows the CRP, shows the hay ground here, and gives a great picture of the lake itself. And kind of seeing where, we're keeping things green. We're trying to prevent that erosion, trying to control those invasive plants and keep everything under control. Because once they get ahead of you, it takes a while to get it caught back up. On my farm, I put an emphasis on conservation. And that's my goal right now, is to get that soil built back up, because it's been damaged through the years, and try to leave it for that when my son's ready to take it, that I leave it in good condition for him.
I am Kathy Dice from Red Fern Farm. I work here as the grunt, the bookkeeper, the publicist. I plant trees, I pot up trees. These are baby pecans. This is an example of the seed tray that will have the babies sprouting in. I mow, I graft, I do what needs to be done here on the farm. So we bought this property in 1986-87, the winter of, right at the worst part of the farm crisis. So we were able to afford. It was timber land mostly that we purchased, so we got it really, really cheap. And when we came out here, we got about 3/4 of an acre of flat land and 55 acres of rolling, hilly timber. We were really excited. And we got the bit of flat land to be where we built our house. And that's where we're standing right now. And right where we're standing used to be a soybean field. In fact, we got it just at the end of the soybean field. And there was nothing here. It was bare dirt, and it had been farmed hard. I mean, this person did not use any conservation practices. Our timber had humongous erosion gullies in it. So we got that cleaned up. We've started to control the runoff going into those gullies, so they are reforesting and they're replanting themselves. And just this whole area now is green and lush with a variety of trees and shrubs and bushes, and we're also got our nursery growing here too. So some people might say, well, you took it out of production. I would say we've brought it into more production than what it was before. And the other land that we took from our neighbors, that we bought from them, they had it in hay fields and pasture, and then they planted some chestnut trees. And when we took over management, we planted more trees. We started mowing between the trees so that the trees really, which had been struggling, fighting against brome and alfalfa, once we controlled the brome and alfalfa, the trees started to grow, and they were like, oh, they were so happy. And we increased the diversity. So I would say what we have done is we've increased soil health, we've increased the organic matter, we've increased the green of all around us. We've gotten things to be extremely productive. So there's a lot more food for people growing on this land.
Hi, my name is Patrick O'Malley. I'm a commercial horticulture field specialist with Iowa State University Extension and Outreach. I work with all aspects of commercial horticulture, nursery, greenhouse, turf grass, but probably do most of it in the fruit and vegetable and to a certain degree nut area now. Well, I heard there was this opportunity for the women impacting agriculture, and I thought, well, who impacts agriculture more than Kathy and her husband Tom, who both grow some very unusual things, at least for Iowa. And they've been very successful on things like the chestnuts, and now they're heavily into the pawpaws and the Asian pears and persimmons and aronia and many other things I could go through. One of the neat conservation practices they do is the fact that they've got these perennial trees and perennial shrubs, like more of a permaculture type thing that doesn't really have its turn into soil erosion because you've got the permanent cover, the grass cover. So the soil remains in place. In fact, it actually over time is building up and becoming a better soil, richer, higher organic matter. I think that's an amazing thing. They try to use as little, if any, chemicals at all on any of their crops. And they strive for getting crops that really don't need to have too many chemical inputs of any sort, whether it's fertilizer or spraying.
Our tree crops, the way we're trying to do agriculture is we're not contributing to the pesticides in the air. We're not contributing to any kind of groundwater pollution. We're in fact helping to clean up the groundwater. There are many measures where they're trying to encourage people to plant more trees and to have conservation buffers along water and too. But they're often pushing for trees that do not produce a crop, that you can't make any income off of. And we're trying to show people you can plant trees, you can have that permanent cover there and make an income, a really nice income. We're most successful with the chestnuts right now. We make really good money off the chestnuts. The pawpaws are starting to come along, and in the future we hope to show that honeyberries, persimmons, heartnuts will all be a very viable crop as well. And because we're interplanting so many different types together, we have such diversity, we're mimicking nature. So we do not have disease problems or pest problems that you will see in a monoculture such as a field of corn or a field of soybeans, where you have to manage carefully, because if you get a pest in there, if you get a disease in there, you can have humongous problems because it will spread so rapidly through that whole field. When we're growing our crops, our trees, we might have a cluster of chestnuts together, a cluster of pawpaws together, and so we might lose 10 or 30. But then the disease has nowhere to go because there's another species right next to it.
I really like the aspect that they are trying these crops like chestnut and pawpaw and Asian pear and persimmon that have a lot of potential here in Iowa. And I think both she and her husband Tom do a lot of outreach as well, promoting these various fruits or at least exposing people to them and educating them about these different fruits.
On my farm, I greatly enjoy myself. I've developed a farm with my husband that's beautiful, that's healthy, where I can go out and pick fruit and eat it right off the tree. I don't have to worry about herbicides or pesticides. It's a safe farm, it's good for the environment, it's productive, and it's good for my community. All the things you need for sustainable agriculture.
Hi, I'm April Hemis. I'm a Franklin County farmer. I farm my family's Century Farm. My great-grandfather bought this farm in 1901. They'd farmed it before that, so I'm the fourth generation on this farm, which is approximately 1,000 acres. And now I have corn, soybeans, I have pasture with cattle on it, and a little bit of alfalfa, and that's my farm. This is my 32nd year at home on the farm. So I graduated from Iowa State University in 1982, middle of the farm crisis. I worked several jobs in a bank. I went to Iowa State and worked for an agronomist there doing research, and then at the Iowa Swine Test Station, and then had someone who just was elected to the United States Congress, and I always wanted to work in international agriculture. So I thought, oh, that's my in, I'll go work in DC. Well, that didn't take me long before I said, I have to come home. I have to be outside. My passion was always to come home to the farm. So in 1985, I came home to the farm.
I'm Kelvin Leibold. I work with Iowa State University Extension out of the Hardin County office, just a few miles from here. And I'm an area farm management field specialist serving north central Iowa. Well, the reason I decided to nominate April is because I knew of our long background and association with the Natural Resource Conservation Service, and the fact that she's been involved in a lot of organizations that are concerned about water quality. And so I just thought she was an outstanding candidate for that, and we'd be very successful. So when April came back to the farm, I think we saw a shift in that time from the heavy tillage to more conservation tillage and then to no-till. And part of that was brought on by the change in the chemicals that were available, but reducing tillage has been one of the big factors in trying to reduce the amount of soil loss and manage nutrients. And again, this farm has some highly erodible land on it, so those are important issues. So no-till has been very helpful. You take a look at the creek banks, again, using pasture to make sure that we're not farming up next to those creek banks is important. So just doing those kinds of things that we see, trying to manage water quality, investing in tile to control the water flow. So those are all things that she's involved with here on the farm.
Conserving the land has become so important, especially in the past few years, especially water quality and the laws and things coming down. And we know that if we don't do it right, there are going to be limitations put on us and more strict regulations than we already have. And so we really have to take a close look at what we do and how we do it and care for the land that we have. And that is really what I see a major thing to look for the future is how we do what we do and promoting it to the public, because a lot of the things they want us to do, we're already doing. We're already doing these things on our farm. They just don't know it. We're not very good about talking about ourselves and what we do, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there. So we need to promote our good soil health practices and what we do on the farm far more, and also at the same time keep doing the good job we're doing and saving our soil and improving water quality. Well, my conservation started a long time ago, mostly with my grandpa. When we had alfalfa for our cattle, we always planted them on the side hills, and I have a lot of highly erodible ground here. And I was like, Grandpa, why are we doing that? Well, it keeps the soil there. And so, you were taught at a young age. Now, it's a lot just common sense. Well, then when I came back to the farm, I served as a soil and water commissioner for Franklin County, and I still am today. So I think this is like my 25th year on that board. But I just love it so much because you can see the dollars being put to good use, being used to save our soil and our water and changing dramatically water quality. So what I do on my farm, I have 2 creeks that run through my farm and planted filter strips, or my pasture was along the creek, so that really helps save the soil. Don't till as much hardly anymore. I do no-till. I no-till a lot of my soybeans into corn stubble. The corn behind me was a soybean field last year, and I just ran a soil finisher over it once and then planted it, so not disturbing the soil as much, using as few chemicals as I can, and just really paying attention to what works for my farm and how to better improve soil quality. I think what brings me back to the farm is just the love of the land. It sounds so quaint and trite, but it's so true. The tradition that has been on this farm of my family, being able to raise my children on the same farm, and it's just the love of planting things and watching them grow.
I'll help you bring some down in here, and then we'll close the gate and then load them. Hi, my name is Julie Walters. I'm from the Gus area, southwest corner of Iowa. I've been married 29 years to Dave Walters, my husband. We have 2 children. Megan, she's 26. She lives out west of Crete, Nebraska, and works on a cutting farm. And Bailey, she's 23. And she works at the local veterinarian's office as a vet tech. We've lived on our farm all 29 years. I work full-time for the Clerk of Court, State of Iowa, and the Judicial Department. My husband also has an off-farm job. He trucks. We raise cow-calf. My in-laws live right up the road from us. They retired about 3 years ago, and we got a lot more involved. We took over part of their cattle herd that we also still share some with them, and then we farm their land along with our land. We have just shy of 1,000 acres. The cattle herd that we have is, we have 80 cow-calf pairs. We do the rotational row cropping, And Dave is pretty much in charge of putting the crops in. I help get the fields ready, and then I'm really involved when it comes to harvesting.
My name is Tim Eggers. I'm the field agricultural economist for Southwest Iowa. I work for Iowa State University Extension to help farmers, ranchers, whoever our clientele, whatever they might call themselves, make better decisions when it comes to agriculture, when it comes to the financial side of agriculture. The reason that I nominated Julie Walters for the Women Impacting the Land project is that as I read through the requirements and I thought, I need to find somebody out of the hundreds of women who are participated in Women in Ag programs in Southwest Iowa to represent Iowa State University Extension at the Farm Progress Show. Julie came to mind right away. And part of that is that at the meetings that she's been at over time, over many years, she's been one of the people who will stand up or sit at the table or whatever and share the things that she learned and the things that she's implemented with the rest of the group. And so I felt confident she could do the same in Central Iowa at the Farm Progress Show. The pasture that we're standing in today is set up for rotational grazing. And so as we showed up just for this process, she said, well, you see my paddocks. And they were the paddocks that she had talked about with the group and paddocks that they're implementing, not something that she might do, but something she is doing. And also when we were in our sessions and we were talking about different types of things that control soil erosion and control the way that the water was flowing across some of our crop ground, she talked about some of the grassed waterways that she had put in and some of the other management things that she had done. And the notion was that, again, not just somebody there to learn about things, but somebody there to learn about things and then to implement those things.
I think the main thing impacting the land is just, first of all, you want to follow the rules that you have. One of those this week, I was up here spraying the thistles that have started in our pasture. But I think just being a good conservationist and, do the right things, be the good neighbor, be the person that helps someone if they're in need. Be open to change and to know what's out there and not be afraid to try something. It might not work, it might not be the best thing, or it might work. And you need to continually review what you do. Everybody's in it to make money, be happy, do good, provide for yourself, provide for your family. And I think all of that just goes back to your basics of what a lot of people that are farmers and ranchers grew up with. There's tough times and you have to be diligent and be diversified because you got to be able to adapt to everything. On my farm, I pretty much enjoy everything that I do. Sometimes I have to laugh at it, but I love to see the hard work pay off.
I'm Jenny Peters from Bellevue, Iowa. I'm married to Charlie Peters, and we have 4 children. We have a diversified commercial cow-calf operation. When Charlie and I first got married, we started with just a handful of Angus cows, and from there on got some Simmental influence and a little bit of Red Angus, and we have a bred heifer development program now that we're currently pretty proud of. It takes quite a bit of time. We rotational graze our cattle as well as our bred heifers. We do a little bit of embryo transfer work, and we have corn, soybeans, and hay, which are on strip crops and are rotated. The hay is a big source for us. We produce quality hay, try to, so we have quality hay to feed to our cattle then in the winter time. And turning marginal ground back and seeding that back down for pasture has been a huge thing for us with rotational grazing in our bred heifer development program. So this is a field that where the green is, we're seeding it down to pasture for this year, and this was next to a timber which was a little bit less marginal or a little bit more marginal ground, and so that's why we seeded it into pasture. We'll make hay off of it this year and then it'll turn into pasture, and this will be part of our rotational grazing program. We'll fence this, and then the cattle will be able to graze on this in the years to come. Right here, this is corn that it's planted on this strip, and so just some of those practices we continually try to do to help improve the land with the soil management. Well, some of the things that we have done in the pasture, we have a ditch that was running through where water was running, and so when the cattle would drink, it would be muddy and sometimes it wouldn't be very clean. So what we did is we tiled and we put in a cement reservoir, and what it does is it catches the water out of the tile drainage tube, and so the cattle continually have fresh water, and then that runs then to another tank in a lower pasture, and that also catches that. Another thing that we do quite often in the winter time is that we will stockpile manure, and we haul the manure further away to different places or different pastures or maybe crops that we're going to put into corn, and then we'll let that sit and stockpile. That also helps for in the winter if the ground is frozen, so you have the runoff. You don't have that then. You're able to let it sit, decompose, and then haul that later onto the ground that you're wanting to work in and as corn. The land and the land that we own or the land that we rent, it's never been ours to begin with. And I think that everyone in agriculture has that opportunity to take care of the land for the next generation. And so whether it's no-till procedures or whether it's grazing your cattle efficiently so they have clean water, and or if it's in the winter and hauling manure or stockpiling manure so you don't have runoff. Those are the things that we're involved with, and I think that it's important that sometimes we just continually go through the motions each and every day doing these things, and it's just because it's what we do, and we try and make good choices each and every day about the land and conservation. We want it to be there for our children and the next children. We're doing such great things in agriculture and progressing and making these great changes, but sometimes we forget to tell everybody, why we're doing what we're doing. And so I think it's important to do things like this or with other people in agriculture and just share your story and say, this is why we're doing what we're doing, because it's important and it's helping, and we're improving the land continually with new innovations and new procedures. You just have to continue to feed yourself with knowledge about agriculture, and if we do that, I think we'll be knowledgeable and we'll continue to see all these improvements throughout the state. And Extension does a great job in helping us do that with the resources that are there if we take advantage of them. We love Iowa State. We have two boys that are now at Iowa State. Matthias is a junior in animal science, and Michael just finished his freshman year in animal science, and my husband graduated from Iowa State. So we love Extension work, and we can't thank the people in Extension enough for all the things that we do. It's programs like this that keep people informed about agriculture and what's going on across the state as well as the country. On my farm, I work and enjoy what I do each and every day.